Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, January 8th, 2015. I'd like to call the Economic Development Commission to order. Do we have any comments or changes to the minutes? If not, do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second? All approved?
Aye.
Thank you. As you know, Hiram isn't here, but he did pass out, and I passed out again, the things that are going on in town. Are there any issues that people would like to discuss? Have comments or questions for him?
If Hiram were here, I would congratulate him on item 6, which I think is long overdue.
Have you sent him flowers yet?
No, I'm gonna send him a case of scotch.
A case?
Yeah, but not till they break ground.
Now that's gonna be the next question?
Dave, he won't tell you what's going on sale the first week, though.
Seeing is believing.
Do we want to come back to that? Everybody had a chance to go through the various items? Okay. Who would like to go? Would Sarah, would you like to go first, or? Okay, so this is our budget discussion, and we're asking that you present your budget request and anything else you'd like to say for the Farmington Valley Visitors Association, and we will incorporate that. As you can see on page 2 of the handout that I have is the discussion, the items for the budget. We'll get to that. So why don't you go ahead?
I'm reading.
Thank you. No.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I've given you a whole bunch of information. It's not necessary that you read it right now, but it's certainly good over a highball or a glass of wine. It gives you strategic plans, the full breakdown of the budget, what our membership dues are for, and guide distribution and all those things. And copies of some of the events that we had. I think that you may know that we're only funded by membership dues and fundraising efforts. We do not receive any state or federal funding. And at this point, regional tourism's budget was dropped 5%. We're hoping that it will not be dropped another 5%. So that does put more onus on us as FEVA. We do get a lot of help from regional tourism in terms of their marketing efforts, and I give all the events to the Valley there, and we see what happens. So right now, we're crossing our fingers. We serve as a resource for residents, relocation. We have a visitor center, and the Valley is a desirable place to live and work, which I'm sure is redundant, you've heard before. We put out 50,000 copies of our 2014 guide. Our 2015 guide, sadly, is not with us right now. It is due to be done next week. We're going to printing system. But that's okay, it's still 2015, it'll come out next week, so in February, you'll get your new copy. We put out about 26,000 of those to members, so they are all over the Valley and beyond. At some point, you can see they go also over the river to other real estate offices that may very well want to bring people out to the Valley. So we are everywhere, including AAA offices, welcome centers, and anybody else who requests it. A lot of the corporations for their seminars would like the information from FEVA, and also we have a connection with UConn, so entering doctors and interns and high-level students also have the opportunity of getting the guide. What I put together for you in there, and the most important thing for this meeting certainly, is how Simsbury and the Farmington Valley Visitors Association work together. And certainly the biggest part of it is the guide. We have a lot of members in Simsbury, but we also have members in New Hartford, in Burlington, in Farmington who may not come this far. So this gives them the opportunity to know what's going on in Simsbury and the Valley. We have our website, which is certainly growing, and the requests for the guide from the website have increased. We do have the office in Old Avon Village, which actually I consider the center of the wheel, because I can make it to all my member towns in about 20-25 minutes from Central. I see about 100 visitors each month, and I'm only in the office half a work week, so that's not bad. I can also tell you that all the brochures and business cards and events that happen that are posted, the flyers are taken, the brochures are taken while I'm gone, so certainly there are more than that come to the office. Our monthly newsletter has really taken off, even though there's still some people who want snail mail and are unwilling to give out email. But we certainly showcase as much as we can the chamber, the library, the town, the rec department, the historical society, women's clubs, music, concerts, and festivals. We also get things from the watershed and the Trails Council. Events keep coming in so much that not only do I do a monthly newsletter, but I also do at least 2 to 3 blasts per month. Thanks to the little push from you, our Facebook has really come alive. We do have somebody who's willing to take care of that on a daily basis. Twitter is opening, and one of our strategic marketing plans happens to be to really beef that up this year in 2015. Now that we have a consistent person, we can do that, and we will certainly be going out to our members asking for discount coupons or something else that they can give away and do trivia contests and those kinds of things. We collaborate with Simsbury Tourism, the Historical Society, the Watershed, the Chamber, Main Street, and other civic and nonprofits. Lisa Gray and I are now meeting on a monthly basis to see how we can mutually help each other, promote each other's events, and do things like that. We continue to be involved in Tri Simsbury, the River to Ridge Triathlon. We do help Simsbury Free Bike when we can. And in terms of regional, the Central Regional Tourism District is really pleased with the events that we have going on in the Valley, and they like very much to promote them. So that is absolutely terrific. We're also continuing with the Dream Ride. I think you know, and you have seen information about our Historic Sites Committee, who is always trying to do something once or twice a year to promote the Valley. Simsbury is always a prominent part of that. And our marketing committee is certainly trying to deal with seasonal getaway suggestions. They're with the state right now, and we're going to see what else we can do to promote it out. Other than that, the most interesting thing that really started last year is that some of the newspapers, especially the Valley Press, get very unhappy with me if they do not get my calendar soon enough to put events, and obviously it's Avon, Canton, Simsbury, Farmington is what they concentrate on. So that is a positive thing for us. Our budget is just a little bit smaller than it was last year. We downsized a little bit just because we know what the economic climate is. So we are asking what we have asked since FEVA began in '94, $4,000.
How did your budget reduce?
We cut a little office cost, and a little bit of our guide went down.
And
And,
how much office space do you have?
oh, teeny tiny.
And you have a rent there, a lease?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? Do you have that number?
Oh, $346. No, I think it went up to $348.33.
And is it a long-term lease, short-term lease?
It's at this point month to month.
Okay.
They're not willing to let us go because the visitor center is such a fabulous hit, and people that come into the village.
Are you easy to
That's a
find? I
very
mean,
important-
I've been by, are you easy to find? Because you're in the back, right? Off of,
I have a really wonderful location. I'm in the building right behind the rocking chair. I've got Hot Heaven Pizza and Welcome Wine and Liquor. So my husband has a tendency to say, you don't get a huge salary, but you're gonna spend it there. But so not necessarily. We certainly try to do more with less. I get a little bit more help from Central Region than I used to in terms of trying to get our things out there. And office expense is not ready, we're just trying to be a little bit leaner. I mean, we only went down $2,500. But still, that's something for us because membership has been difficult. We lost 15 members to going out of business and then a couple more who just didn't, so.
So was your membership lower last year than the
Yeah.
year before?
Yeah, yeah. And this year, our push begins in February 4th, at the Country Club of Farmington. We're doing Get Sweet On FVBA. It's a member networking and potential member networking event. And we're gonna actually try to do something like that every 2 months. And the contemplation, and I guess what we're working on is that first event. Hopefully it'll be held at Redstone. And we'll go from there. Questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We hope you can keep it at the same level.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, everyone's best time of year, budget season. I would just like to point out in the audience, we have a couple board members of the Simsbury Main Street Partnership with us. I have Brian DeVoe, who is the owner of Fitzgerald's Food. We have Jackson Eno, who is the new co-owner of 690 Hot Meadow Street, which is that $12 million investment that you'll be seeing very shortly. And we have Tom Horn, he's a virtual stranger to town.
I'm a newbie.
He's been in here, what, 2 months now?
I know you guys, most of you are familiar with Main Street, but I just, again, want to back up and remind people that in 1996, the Simsbury Main Street Partnership was started. It is part of a public-private partnership with the town of Simsbury. It was started, actually the entire state program was started at Eno Memorial Hall under Mary Glassman's first term as first selectman. And the state program and the Simsbury Main Street program grew out of that, the summit in 1995, the Economic Development Summit. We have enjoyed a 19-year-long, very strong public-private partnership with the town. As you may know, we are different from other nonprofit organizations in that we were strictly created to be part of this public-private partnership, where we're almost a semi-quasi-governmental agency. We have enjoyed a lot of success over the last 10, 12 years. Everything from beginning the branding campaign for the entire town of Simsbury. That was funded through a National Park Service grant that Main Street wrote. It was matched with a Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office grant. It was matched with a Connecticut Main Street Center grant and private funds to the tune of more than $100,000. From there, we were able to hire, through a nationally competitive process, with more than 25 national firms competing. We hired Dornenberg, which is now Dornenberg Callenbach Associates, DKA. He is a town resident, but was part of this nationally competitive process. I had never met Jeff until he stepped in to interview with us. From there, we've created a complete comprehensive branding for the town of Simsbury that the town has used and carried over into all parts. We're on the annual report, the schools. We provide information to the Farmington Valley Visitors Association, to the Chamber, we're in the hotels, we have a great relationship with the Tourism Committee in that they disseminate our information. From the branding campaign efforts, we were able to successfully lobby and receive the award of the only town in Connecticut to be named the dozen distinctive destinations from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. We're still the only town in Connecticut to enjoy that designation. That rocketed us to more than 500 media hits nationwide. We were on the cover of the Washington Post. We made the Boston Globe 2 years, 2 years and 2 times in 4 years. We were in National Geographic, USA Today, you name it. We provide marketing services for the town of Simsbury. We help coordinate events such as the triathlon. We've worked with the Art Walk, every major event that's come through downtown, especially when it deals with businesses. We do small business retention. That really is our focus, because the first step to recruiting new businesses is to make sure that you don't have a vacant town, that you make sure that you have investment happening within the town. We work with the small businesses. Economic development research shows and has consistently showed that the best way a town can invest and spend their investment is to create and to expand and grow the existing business base versus focusing on just new businesses. We do Simsbury as a wedding destination. We will, for the second year in a row, be working with the town of Simsbury and the tourism committee to do the Valentine's Day promotion. We're working with the town clerk. It'll come before the Board of Selectmen on Monday night, but we don't anticipate any problems where we would waive the marriage license fees. I think it's the first 5 people, the first 5 couples that come in on February 13th, because the 14th is a Saturday. Main Street worked with it last year. We put together the grand prize package. We did all of the publicity, the marketing. This year, the state tourism office is also offering us a chance to do a listing, so I'm working through the first selectman's office on timing, because the Board of Selectmen hasn't actually officially voted on this yet, but again, we don't anticipate, it's up to $100 that we're looking for from the town. Again, we've consistently worked with the schools. We've matched the Riverview students, the students at the high school with the Riverview. They get job training, they get mentorship. We've done a ton of things. The most successful things, the most recent things that we've done to help the small business community have been the Small Business Saturday event that we ran on Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. We continue to educate the public on why it's important to shop locally, not just in the Valley, but concentrated in Simsbury. And we continue to make Simsbury a destination. You can see by the 5-page work plans that we are constantly updating. You can take a look at our objectives, the action steps, the timeframes, the budget items.
The study was $25,000.
We do a ton of work as a nonprofit, and we enjoy a very close relationship with Town Hall. We are requesting through my board of directors that we be reinstated back to the $50,000. Last year, you guys supported the request of $50,000, but when it came time for budget, understandably there were some issues, we were reduced down to $45,000. So we are, our work continues to increase, our responsibilities to continue to increase, and so the board would like to be reinstated back to the $50,000. We are actually considering currently, because of the reduction, the board is considering currently running at a deficit, which is the first time that we've ever thought about running at a deficit, having a deficit budget for this year. Questions?
Is this the current work plan?
Our fiscal year doesn't end until March 31st, so this is the current work plan.
Okay, so 2013, 2014.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why that says that. It should be 2014, 2015.
Okay, so those 13s and all, okay, should be 14s. Okay, I just wasn't sure if this,
You know what? Maybe I'm sorry. I might have made the wrong copies. My computer froze when I was here at 6:50 this morning, so I took an old copy. So that might be it. I can email you the 2014, 2015 work plans.
What's the total budget
For this year,
Yeah.
Our budget hasn't closed, but our total budget will be somewhere around $120,000.
Where are your membership numbers this year versus last year?
We're right in the middle of our business membership drive, but they've steadily increased over the last 4 years.
How many members do you have now?
I will have to check. It's about, I would say, about 150 business members. We also have residents as well. We're a little bit different in that we allow resident student capacity as well, and we do get members there right around the 40 family mark.
Do you know how many crossover members you have between Main Street and the Chamber?
I wouldn't know that, no. I will say that our geographic area is smaller than the Chamber. The Chamber has membership, business members in other towns. We concentrate specifically on the downtown area, which again, for us, doesn't just go bank to bank. It goes from all the way up, almost to the Granby line, near Emmons. It goes all the way down towards the Riverview. We go out West Street to the high school, and then we do the side streets like Plank, Station, Railroad, but we're a smaller geographic area.
Are the memberships on a sliding scale depending on size?
Yes.
Can you give us a rough idea how that works?
I believe for 0 to 3 employees, it's $100 a year. For 3 to 4 plus employees, it goes up to about $195, I think, is the most.
Could you tell us about your fundraising efforts and what you were able to raise in this last budget cycle? I know you do the Taste of Simsbury. You have it as an expense here of 5,000.
Yes, we do.
But is that a
we do,
fundraiser?
it's still a net profit for us, absolutely, it's still a fundraiser for
Right.
us.
Can you explain where you raise your money and
Yep.
and how you do it?
With the exception of the $45,000 that come from the town, Main Street raises all of the rest of the money. At times, we have had $150,000, $190,000 budget, it depends. It depends on how many grants we've received, it depends on how many projects we've run. A year and a half ago, when we did the Gifford Penn Show premiere, and again, that was one of the things, we had the gala premiere, we were a site selection team that went out with the PBS crew, we set up interviews, we set up site selections, and then we had the chief of the US Forest Service come out and do the premiere at the Riverview. That was a much major event. Main Street granted, even though the Land Trust and the Free Library were part of it, that ended up being $30,000 extra, although there were expenses, about $30,000 extra. We raise, besides the $45,000 contributed from the town, we fundraise through fundraising, special events, and membership, all of the rest of our budget every year to cover that.
And like with the Taste of Simsbury, how much do you make off of that? Is the expense is high?
I believe with the expense is high, but we still profit about $20,000 net profit off of that event.
And which others are fundraisers on this list that?
Well, the farmer's market, that is a huge expense, that's one of our draws, our bigger issues, but it's membership and grants.
Okay.
What does membership bring in approximately?
I would have to look, I would say membership is probably $20,000, maybe.
So that's 40,000 of a $120,000 budget. Where's the 80 grand coming from?
That comes from, there's a breakdown, that comes from things like in-kind professional design services. And I'll give you an example. When we did Jeff Dordenberg, did our special event flyer, he donated approximately $3,000 there. That comes from Nord Christensen, Simsbury Square. They donate 2 man people, 4 hours a week for 16 weeks to run the farmer's market. And then when we do, for example, things like fundraising with the banners, we offset a portion when we do the Talcott Mountain Music Festival, we offset a portion to cover the cost, and then we have some fundraising that ends up being a couple $1,000s. So there's smaller events that are similar to that as well.
And then you do grants as well. Are those grants part of your budget, or are those just in addition, depending on the year?
It depends on the year.
So when you go to your planning session and you do your budget for 15, 16,
Yep.
do you include a line item for grants, or you just do your budget and then grants
It depends.
come
Well,
as
you know,
they?
our budget is a work in progress. We continually, as we're adding things and as the town has asked us to add things, there are times when we do have to move things off because I'm one staff person. But when we know it depends on the grant cycle. If we know we have a grant coming in, a preservation of place grant, for example, we've gotten from Connecticut Main Street Center, we got $10,000 to do the design guidelines for the town of Simsbury. We put $8,000 towards the charrette. When we know those items are coming in, depending on the timing, it does get worked into the budget. And the budget is constantly changing. Dick Bear, who's our treasurer, who's the ex-vice president of Simsbury Bank, will continually update our budget. We do it every month.
Could you send us a copy of your last year's budget on one page,
Yes.
just so that we have a better sense? The farmer's market is a net expense for you?
Yes. The farmer's market has operated at a loss, but we do continue to do it because we feel it's important to the community. If you ask Nord Christensen, who's the property owner, and he's not a small property owner, I mean, he pays about $175,000 in taxes. One of the reasons he's been able to keep almost nearly 0% vacancy is because of things like the farmer's market. So we continue to feel it's for the greater good. It's one of the reasons continually listed when we do things like Hartford Magazine, CNN Money Magazine, you name it, that we have a local farmer's market. And it helps people like George Hall, some of our local Cane's Salsa, you name it.
And so you actually,
But it's a loss for us.
So is this figure correct, that it cost you about $13,500
Yes.
a year? Okay.
Has that number been in, I'm sorry, Chris.
Sorry, are the fees competitive with other farmers
Yes,
markets?
and see that
For
becomes
vendor,
absolutely, that becomes part of the problem. The vendors market fees are incredibly low. You're talking about trying to ask a farmer to staff things and bring things and pay for staff as well and participate in the farmer's market. So our fees, I think, for the entire season to be a full season vendor are somewhere around the 150 mark.
Do you have to pay a health district fee? The $50,
always fun.
every vendor pays that?
It depends on what they're serving. The farms are exempt from that, but if you're serving any sort of prepared foods, if you're doing sampling, we absolutely have to pay a fee.
And do you have the vendors pay that, or do you guys pay that?
Sometimes we have to pay the fee. Like when we had Chris Prosperi from Metro Beast come down, you know, he's a huge draw. We had, we've had guest chefs such as Tyler come down. We can't ask them, they're already donating, you know, their time and their expertise. We're
So you
paying the
cover
fee.
that.
We're also covering sometimes the cost of the food for them to do sampling.
Sarah, has the loss increased much over the years?
The
loss that you run it at?
farmer's market,
Yeah.
no. I will say the loss has decreased maybe just a little bit because we've been getting in more vendors now that we have a sustained market master, who's been with us for, you know, not just one season, for 2 seasons.
You can pretty much count on this number being a fairly
It is,
constant.
and it's a number that my board of directors can tell you they look at every single year. And every single year they grimace and tell me, why are we doing this? But we go through, it's for the greater good, it's a community service, and every year we put it back in.
Has the board ever considered doing, like the chamber does, stickers to give to the businesses that join?
We do have
to identify
yes, we do
themselves
have
as
window
members?
decals for the first time, so we will be giving those out. We have we didn't want to do stickers, but
Well,
we have
you-
but
you
yeah,
went
the
window
claims.
things that-
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
Do you pay rent for your space here in town?
We do not. That has been something that had been part of the town's contribution. I moved in 7 years ago, and that was part of that as well.
You had mentioned that you're thinking of a potential budget deficit for
Running at a
next
deficit
year.
budget.
This year, right now, are
Yes.
you ahead or behind?
We're behind, that's why we would consider running at a deficit budget. I will say that, you know, we play things very tightly. There's, you know, any money we can put into programs, we can put into things of that nature, we do, which is why the board, I mean, if you know, our expenses are almost nothing. It's programs and then it's staff, that's it.
Sarah, would you say that the deficit you were approaching, or running currently, was that a function of the cut?
Yes, that's a direct function.
But nothing other extraordinary?
No.
I was just going to ask a question after that.
So if we increase your request by $5,000, does that put you neutral on your budget?
I believe it will, yes. And I just want to be careful again, it would be, you know, because what happens, it'll say Main Street's looking, we're looking to be reinstated from the cut that we had last year. The return on investment for the Main Street program in these 19 years is into the millions. The public-private partnership, what the town's contribution allows us to do is to focus on branding, marketing, special events, press releases, promotions for the entire town of Simsbury versus just strictly caring about membership. And, you know, it allows us to do the greatest good for the town. It's why we've been structured for these 19 years very differently than any of the other organizations. We work very closely with all the organizations, the Masons, the Junior Women's, I could name them ad nauseum. We work very closely with them, but we are structured and have been, that's why we were created. We were structured differently.
Do you have a rainy day fund, reserves?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you have to tap into
We have to be
those.
smart. The one thing that the board has been doing, because again, you know, we're a nationally accredited, award-winning, 19-year-old not-for-profit. The one thing that the board is doing is we've seen the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving has seen all of these nonprofits over the last 4 years start to close up. The board has made concerted efforts that they would like to put aside 1 year's operating expenses. We're not there because we're currently, again, we're running a deficit budget, but that is the goal of the board of directors. It also makes us much more appealing as we go towards grants, you know, for grant requests from the Hartford Foundation or from some of these other groups. So we need to show them that we are not going to close up. Should they give us money, should they invest in us, that we're not going to be closed in a year. The other thing, I'm sorry, I should mention, the other way we're operating is a semi-quasi public agency. My president, Rich Curry, couldn't be here this morning, but we just officially became the fiscal sponsor for the Simsbury Veterans Memorial as well.
What does that mean?
That means that the memorial is prominently going to be displayed in downtown Simsbury. They have had some trouble with some of their funders who cannot donate. They're a nonprofit, so they're a tax-exempt organization, and if you write a check for a brick paper or what have you, it's still a write-off. It's a tax deduction. But there are some corporations like the Hartford or others that have changed the way that they're giving, and they can only strictly give to a 501c3 not-for-profit. And so this has been carefully vetted. We had to hire a separate attorney as well as our general counsel to make sure that we have an agreement that will not hurt Main Street's 513 status, but we've enjoyed a very long relationship with the veterans. I've been doing a lot of their education and PR campaign as we've moved towards the memorial. So we are becoming the fiscal sponsor. It means that we will open an account that will be strictly earmarked for the memorial. And funds can come in through us, they can be tax deductible, and that they'll do a project request, they'll do a grant request to us for whatever funds come in. They provide information as to where the money is going, and we'll disperse it.
And you can do a grant as a 501c3?
Yes, we can. But it's very careful. We are the fiscal sponsor, so we vetted it through, we had to hire a nonprofit attorney.
It's a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you have a question? I'm going in a different direction now. Okay. We've talked about the budget, and certainly I'm in favor of supporting the Main Street.
Thank you.
So, but I want to go in a little different direction now. There's been discussions through the chamber, with the town, different organizations, tourism, about developing a hub of a unity of interest with regard to these organizations that are within town.
Yes, I've been part of those discussions.
We've had the Historical Society here last month. I'm asking you, you understand what that's all about?
Yes.
About trying to get everybody together, be in a common location, limit some of your expenses. I understand that you're here. I also understand that Town Hall is somewhat tight, and they're always looking for additional space as well. Chamber's looking over a period of time to relocate. Historical Society's mentioned part of their plan may be, or could be, as a possibility, having everybody in a unity of interest down in that area, which is right in the center. Is that something you would recommend to your board?
I have to be careful here.
Why?
Well, let me say this. My board will take up any sort of proposal that somebody brings to us.
That's
That
why I'm
is the
asking,
fiduciary
that's why I asked it the way I did that. I'm asking if you, as the executive director of Main Street, would recommend it to your board. The board's gonna vote and do whatever they wanna do, and I didn't ask that
I don't know,
question.
I don't know.
can only ask what.
I need more detail, Lou, because
Okay.
here's why. I've been in all the discussions, I met with Lisa Gray, I know Lisa ended up meeting with Nancy. I was part of the team that was invited with Dominique Avery to go and look at the old Ferrero Hickson building, et cetera. The discussions that we've had and that we've had with Lisa Hebner are a couple things. Number one, I think it's a great concept, okay, but it needs to be fleshed out more, and I talked to Elaine Lang after last month's meeting on timing, on what it would look like. Main Street might be able to help in that we could write certain grants if they have a project in mind to help offset some of the costs. Now, I don't know what that means for Main Street, only because there's a couple things. We don't run our office like a chamber office, okay? My office, quite frankly, you can go down and look, it's more of a catch-all. It's a small space. I get paid not to be in my office. If I'm in my office, my board will come down on me. I get paid to be out in the business community. I spend maybe 15, 20 hours in my office at best. On a bad week, 25 hours. So we have a very different function. I also think that being in Town Hall, being very close to people like Hiram Peck, Town Planner, and others have benefited. I mean, if you ask Hiram, one of the reasons that he consistently supports, and Tom Roy and others consistently support our budget requests, are because we're a little bit different. So I don't know. I think that Main Street has flourished by being in Town Hall. So, I mean, that's as fair as I can be. I think it's a great concept, but again, we operate a little differently, and I had this conversation with Lisa Gray 3 days ago, and she did understand that. I think it depends, like, is the visitor center gonna be manned or unmanned? I mean, all of those things come into play. I think it's a great idea. I'm unwilling to commit without more detail as to what I would recommend the board.
You have to develop momentum, okay? And momentum can't be developed by tourism. It can't be developed just by the chamber. It can't be developed just by Main Street. It takes a coordinated effort of people to develop. It can't be developed just by the Historical Society. An Historical Society on its own probably couldn't get this underway right now. So it takes a momentum, and it takes some people stepping out of the box and thinking a little differently. Do you agree that the concept of a central area, let's use the Historical Society, I'm not saying it has to be there, I'm not saying it all can be there, but there's been discussion of it, there's been some meetings and plans of, the bike path is right there, the Performing Arts Center is right there, you could put the visitor center there. Do you agree that the concept of a hub in that area would be a good thing for the town? And
I do.
especially, the reason I'm on Main Street is, I don't think there's any better, if you look at your goals, promoting the Main Street district, historical, right? That's the historical part, preserving the historical nature of the Main Street. Okay, I don't think there's any greater goal than preserving the Historical Society's buildings, which are on our Main Street.
I don't disagree.
That's a goal, and that's one of the goals. And then you get down to your goal number 4, which is build consensus and cooperation among groups that play a role in the Main Street district. I can't see any better goal than tourism, chamber, all developing that. So to me, what your goals are that you presented as what you're doing every year, which is good, seem to fall right in line with developing this momentum, this hub.
We're saying the same. Lou, I completely agree. I don't want to commit Main Street, but I'm saying that the concept of, and I particularly like, and I think the board particularly likes the idea of the Historical Society. What we wouldn't be in favor, quite frankly, of is taking prime retail space. Okay, because then you're taking an opportunity. It's part of the reason why we've had opportunities to move to prime retail space for little to no cost at some points that we've chosen not to.
Which I agree. You're not considering that area prime retail.
No.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying I believe that the Historical Society, above all of the other spaces, is the best fit because you're not taking away what could be redeveloped as retail, mixed use, following the shred. So I think I do agree with the concept. I would argue that the board would agree with that concept as well. You have people like Brian DeVoe who are continually giving to the community, and Tom Horn and others. I believe in the concept. I can't commit Main Street. I think it's a great concept, and I believe that if you're going to talk about a concept, the Historical Society or another non-tax-paying entity is important. I wouldn't like to see this hub be anywhere where you could have taxes.
I agree with that. I'm fully aware of that.
I very much agree. I think we're on the same page.
The EDC is trying to grow the tax base, not
Absolutely.
shrink it. So I agree, and that's why I think
that's why I like the Historical Society. I very much agree with that.
And I just think it's location.
I agree.
And because part of what I'm going to raise later is the town, I'm going to recommend that this board, as part of the proposal in our budget, recommend that the town put $50,000 toward developing this hub. I think the town needs to step up and do that and help out these various organizations. And I think there's no better spot to do that.
I
I think
agree.
the bike people would love it. If the visitor center is right off the bike path, they don't have bathrooms. I think there's a great concept there. So that's why I'm asking those questions.
I very much agree. Like I said, I can't commit Main Street. We function a little bit differently. I'm not in my office as much. Lisa and I talked about a lot of these opportunities, and I will say it's been, working with the chamber, has always been fine, but it's really, I think the chamber moving in a different direction has been wonderful for us both, for both organizations. So I think there's a lot of simpatico. I won't say no, but I will say that I would need more information to take a proposal to my board, because we're moving from, a non-rent situation in town hall, where, I already do an insane amount of hours, and moving down to there, would we man the visitor, what other duties would be. That's what they would ask.
Yeah, those are things that have to be
work
fleshed
out.
out, absolutely. But the concept of being right in the center of town, preserving that historical
Yes,
district,
but- and also
promoting it,
on
putting it on
nonprofit
steroids,
grounds.
I think would be a good thing. And I think Main Street and the town are a vehicle to help coordinate that. That's why I was asking you. And I asked them not so much what's Main Street gonna do, but would you recommend it? Because you can only answer for yourself.
Yes, I
You
can.
can't answer for the board, so I already know that.
Like I said, I would need more detail. When
Okay.
I make recommendations to the board, I need to make sure that I have all the information, because they asked me 150 questions.
Right.
So with all that said, what is your budget request this
Our
year?
budget request is to be reinstated at the $50,000 level that we were cut from last year.
Are there other comments or questions for Sarah? Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if you had any questions. I have board members here. They're also small business owners, just so you know. If you had any questions for them as well, I didn't know.
Or do you have any comments for us as to what Main Street does
yeah.
for you, or?
We go through this every year, and to me personally, I don't know why, we do have to go through this dog and pony show when we know what we do.
Well, we have new members
We do
here
it well.
sometimes, so it's good that they,
Yeah, 10 minutes. But anyway, I appreciate your support. Main Street does a tremendous amount of work for, frankly, very little money if you had to pay a full-time person on the, for the town. And I think it's a win-win for the town and for Main Street to reinstate us at the level that we requested last year. We're doing a lot for the town. As you mentioned, millions of dollars in return to the town with all of our work. And I think we should do the right thing.
thank you.
If I could just say, I'm involved in the Rotary, involved in Chamber, not involved members. This is the first group that I've been able to spare some time for and say that I've seen a return. I've gotten to know the town. We did the Simsbury Saturday, Small Business Saturday. I tried to do it on my own a year ago. We did the gift card discount, did the identical thing and sold about 5, and sold 85 this year with the group getting together. It brought attention to all the businesses in town, not just me. It gave me a better understanding of how I have to run my business and be involved in the other businesses in town. So I think that was a help to the town, because I can use a lot of my resources and help some of the smaller business, and we're trying to do that. But I really got a better understanding of Simsbury, because I live in Vernon. So in these last year and a half that I've been a board member, I've got a better understanding of the town, better understanding of how we can be more involved in town. Sarah is on my back constantly about things that we can do, to be involved in town and keep me involved in in what's going on and the happenings. Because I don't live in town, I'm not always involved, and I'm in those 4 walls, kind of confined in what we do, and trying to do what we do, but not not involved in town as I would be if I wasn't involved, as I should be if I wasn't involved in Main Street. So it's been a big resource for us as well. That's why I came this morning, just to make sure you guys understand how important it is and how important it was to us as a business.
No, that's very good to know.
I think Brian should move.
I can help with that.
We're looking. We're looking. Can you help?
I can.
I think you can help.
She's a good realtor.
I just wanted to say thank you too for the years of support that the EDC has given to the Main Street. I've been involved with Main Street on again and off again since its founding, and it's really, I think, been an important reason why the downtown is as vibrant as it is. I thought on my way down here today, in 1976, when we were running the bicentennial in Simsbury, how we quickly before the bicentennial parade ran up and down Hot Meadow Street. All the plywood side windows with businesses that were not here, and they were covered up with plywood, we painted so that there were American flags on some of these storefronts that were empty. And I don't ever really want to see that again. Downtown hasn't been like that since the Main Street's been along. And as everybody has said, the $50,000 generates $120,000 to $200,000 a year. It's a great return on the investment because it is a public-private partnership. I happen to be not only the board member, but I have a business downtown and I represent a nonprofit in the downtown. And the Main Street Partnership has been extraordinarily important to both nonprofits and the for-profits. And having Sarah in the main town office building, working with the town staff and having that proximity is increasingly important for new business development. The numbers of times that she can pick up information just by conversations that she has at the water cooler with people like Hiram, and then disseminates that to us. You need to do this or you need to do that. I mean, one of my, for the project at 690 Hot Meadow Street, one of my designers said, and he lives not in town and not even in state, said, Simsbury is like a tissue box. You pull one out, and the next thing you know, there's another one. And this he talked about regulations and plans and things that we have to do and commissions that we have to go before. And he said it's one of the most frustrating things he's ever been through. And I said, but that's what makes Simsbury beautiful. The fact that so many people care about it and so many people are interested in making sure that the right things are done. And you know, that's why we have the downtown we have. And Main Street is a huge part of that. So thank you for your support, and I wish it were 100,000 because you'd get a heck of a lot bigger return.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I didn't turn my phone off, sorry.
Nancy Hasse is not here, I guess, to speak on the EDTF, but I did, and you probably got through Hiram's piece that I guess, and Tom, can you talk about the the enhanced website that may be going live somewhere?
I believe I don't have a lot of details on that to be, I think probably others have been closer to it. I know there's been a lot of work on it with, they've got the current vendor, I think, who's.
Do you want me to speak to that, Mark? Because I'm staff for that.
Yep.
So, again, I think we mentioned last month, we've come up with a compromise that I think will make everybody happy. After extensive work done by some of you on this commission, as well as the task force, we do believe that we will continue to go through virtual town hall, the current vendor, for a couple of reasons. We were able to get them down to a nominal cost. There's no staff retraining, so the burden doesn't fall back on the staff, so they can continue to operate the way that they know how. We are currently in a refreshing of the branding. I believe, although I'm not going to steal Jeff Dornenberg's thunder, because he'll be presenting, I believe, next month to the EDC.
Yeah, on the 12th.
He'll be presenting to the EDC. He's also presenting to the Board of Selectmen on January 26th, I believe. So I don't want to steal his thunder, but we are refreshing the Simsbury Main Street, the town of Simsbury branding that Main Street put in place. So that will be, which is in good timing, because we'll be reprinting all of the things that we've held off on reprinting until the task force is ready. But we have a brand new concept for the website. GIS is up or will be up in the next week and functioning.
Right.
So again, the current vendor has said that for, I believe, about $10,000, which is in website terms, a steal. We can refresh the brand, we can update the entire, not just the EDC, but the entire town website, the functionality, everything under this new look. And we can do it quickly. This isn't a 6-month, RFP out, proposals back in, rigmarole. We can do this almost immediately.
So we're going to, I guess this is going to be presented on the 20th of this month, so do we know when it's going to go live, or it's still like in a beta testing kind of thing? Or
What'll happen is it'll go to beta testing first. Everything has to be, the Board of Selectmen has to approve this, because the funds, even though I believe they're under Hiram's budget for planning the task force fund, so it still has to go to the Board of Selectmen. There's still talk about convening a meeting to talk about how we're going to manage the information. That becomes, you have the $10,000 approximately to redo the website, but then the content management becomes critical. Who's going to manage it? Who's going to update it? So that's a function, that's a discussion that I think is still ongoing. And then there'll be a beta testing period for, because we want to make sure we got it right, not like the last time the town did it. There's got to be a beta testing window, and then it will go live once all the kinks have been worked out.
I wasn't here at the last meeting, so my apologies. Will commissioners on various boards be included in the beta testing this time?
Absolutely. Again, I wasn't in charge when they
No, I know.
refresh the website.
No,
but,
no, I know.
But
I wasn't-
absolutely, I think not just commissioners, but we also want to do a select number of residents, I believe, because you want to have the users.
The users of the.
Make
website.
sure that everything, so the beta testing, because there wasn't beta testing last time the
Right.
town changed it
Well,
over.
the technology task force did do that, actually.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so, but I think to Chris's point, let's make sure we have a broader audience than we did for the beta testing.
Yeah.
So, but
Who specifically should we talk to on this? Hiram, to say, you know, we'd like somebody, or a couple of people from our commission.
Well, I think the whole commission will be invited. It won't be I think the entire commission, because when you do beta testing, people will just be sent the link. I believe the whole commission should be invited, as well as
The
the
task
other
force.
commissions, the task force, et cetera. The Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, some of our users.
Okay, I'll make a point of contacting
Okay.
Hiram that we be included in that before it actually goes live, to see if it's doing some of the things we want it to do.
And Mark, it's for what it's worth, it's on the record, I'll make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you.
And with regard to that, is the GIS system, which it seems to be ready to be unveiled, part of that?
Yes.
Yep.
That'll be.
That's actually coming out earlier.
But
and
it's gonna be within this context,
Absolutely.
whatever the
That's
website
correct,
turns
it'll
into.
certainly be available through that, but that's, town staff has worked very hard to make sure that the data is accurate and we're ready to run
That's a
with that.
necessity.
So,
That'll be huge.
Sarah, have you seen any mock-ups of the new layout?
Yes. And again,
Can you-
Jeff will, I don't want to steal his thunder, Jeff will show you,
Okay.
but I will say that what they did, the task force along with the commission, what we did is they took an extensive look at websites across the country. They looked at just Economic Development Commission websites, town websites that had the economic development piece built in. And so what Jeff did, which he'll be presenting to the task force, is he's reviewed, this is what we liked from different websites, this is why we liked it, and then this is what the new site would look like if we went with, he'll show it.
Okay, so would it be accurate to say then that the new design is kind of based off of kind of best practices and
Yes.
starting from square one, as opposed to taking what's currently there and tweaking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There-
All right,
in
that's
fact,
good.
I will give both the commission and the task force credit, because I think when the conversations first started about this, there was just gonna take and tweak. And what you guys were saying is, economic development is critical to everything the town does. It should be built into everything the town does. So it becomes not a taking and a tweaking. You get a brand new, clean layout, functionality. They've explored all of those. Content, what would be up there, messages from the first selectman. And I think between Stephanie, although she's taking notes right now, and myself, because I've done a lot of ghostwriting for the first selectman as well, how to create the new content, the new look. But I'm thrilled. I mean, on behalf of Main Street, because we've worked very hard at this branding for the last 8 years, we're very pleased.
Based on the conversations we had with Virtual Town Hall when we were looking at all these websites, it looks nothing like, it will look nothing like what we
Nothing.
have.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing like
Okay,
what
that's
we
good.
have.
Yes.
That's good, because I heard her say with the same vendor, my first thought
Yeah.
was terrific.
No,
It's video from
Jay,
Yellow.
we had the same thoughts,
Yeah,
but
okay.
they, we're giving them the template. They've said they can do it, as long
We're
as,
not using
again,
their
there's gotta
templates.
be.
Okay.
But we're
Terrific.
giving them the template, not the other way around this
All
way.
right, that sounds much better, okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, well,
Contemporary.
with that,
I have to run, excuse me, to the dentist of all damn things. But I'd just like to make one comment. Before I leave, I'd like to vote for the $50,000 to Sarah, plus an additional token of $2,500 in addition to that, because I think we're all, at least I can speak for myself, extremely impressed. The time taken this morning by the gentleman to come from the Main Street Partners. And I think what we've all have done over time is appreciate the job Sarah's done. So I vote for giving for the $55,000 and an additional $2,500 as a token of good esteem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now to the dentist.
Good luck.
For my reward, I go to the dentist. Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's move into the actual discussion of the budget. And I'll go down through the items here. Advertising, recommended $1,000. I don't think we used $1,000 last year in advertising, unless we allocated it to some other town.
Did we have 1,000 in the budget last year? Because I thought we had very minimal last year, and we have to request it from the first selectman's
We didn't
office.
request it.
Yeah, I think we did do some things, but we went to the first selectman's budget ahead of time.
Yes, but I don't specifically recall.
Isn't that how all this goes, though? Isn't this all sort of?
Yeah, well, it used to be,
Well, it used to be,
Different,
if
yeah.
you wanted anything, you had to go to the selectmen, and things have, loosened up a little bit. So the question is on this, do we want to have any money in advertising in our budget for 15, 16?
I guess it begs the question of what are we to be advertising?
Well, that's.
well, there were different things, in the past, we have done things in the,
The developer
New England
showcase.
Developer show, whether you consider it advertising, or just a kind of a combination, things that have been, monies that have been used in the past to go to developer showcase, to go to various seminars, but also to write an article and advertise in the New England.
New England Journal.
New England Real Estate Journal.
Yep.
Which we've done a number of times if there's a new project or something like that. So we have actually advertised and done different things. In the past, we did a bus tour for brokers, and those are some of the things that were in our budget.
Okay.
So we have used it in the past. What changed was, a number of years ago, the change from being specifically in our budget to not having it in our budget, but if we had this request and if we thought it was a good idea, we would go to the first selectman and ask for $1,000 to do A, B, and C. So that's how it is really now. That's why it wasn't in the budget last year. So frankly, I don't care one way or the other of that. I think there are some things that we could do or should do, whether it's gonna be in our budget or in the first selectman's budget, and we have to ask for it, is irrelevant to me.
Okay, so the question is, do we want to put that in our budget, or let it go?
I don't know what maybe Tom can answer how they want it this year.
Remember, all this is gonna end up in front of the Board of Selectmen, one way or the other, for approval. I think if if you think there's gonna be a need for that money, include it in your budget. There may be some discussion as to where it ends up being allocated later on, but it would be a mistake if you want it not to put it in.
Then I would definitely put something in, not just for, advertising, slash seminar,
Should it be called
showcase.
something other than advertising?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, yeah.
Should it be called economic development promotion or?
Oh, but that's probably a better way to put it.
Promotion might be better.
Yeah,
Right, because it's not really just for advertising.
right.
So I will change that heading to promotion.
As a practical point, who executes these? I mean,
We vote as a board.
no, I'm sorry. So something gets, so we say, okay, we want, let's say, a bus tour of brokers, okay, to
Right.
come through. So as a practical point, how's that executed?
Well,
One of us.
if it's in our budget, we set it up and we did it. That's what we did. We worked with Metro Hartford Alliance. We worked with Main Street. We got a bus donated. We did it at Simsbury Inn. We did it with the help of others along the way.
Okay.
It's coordinated through, the commission with everyone else helping out, team effort. But we
Okay.
coordinate it, and then whatever we have in the budget, we've used. When we haven't had it in the budget, and we thought it was something, we write a letter, present to the selectmen, and make a request.
Okay. It just sounds like it's something that's kind of in Main Street's kind of sweet spot to at least, participate in. So I didn't know if those types of things should be, I mean, I don't want to say included in their budget, but.
Well,
We can have it in
they've
and not
certainly
use it.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah.
Let me answer that, because there is a fine subtlety there. Main Street is absolutely involved in it and helps out greatly in a lot of these events that we do, but it's not always in Main Street's purview, so you wouldn't want to put it in their budget, because it may be something that we're promoting a project, the Hartford, which is not in their purview. Now, would they help out? Could they do this? Do they have, and that's what has been done over the
Okay.
years
But you
in
would
the
do
past.
direct.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a
why-
helpful.
That's why
yeah, yep.
it is a little different.
Okay, no, that's helpful. It makes sense.
You're gonna have a quorum.
Yeah, well, we will, but let's get through this, because we just have one more thing. So we're gonna leave $1,000 in for promotion, okay. Office supplies, 200, that's always been there, leave that in. Office, part-time clerk, we leave that in. public agency support, 50,000 requests from Main Street, 4,000 from Farmington Valley, so that brings us down to, are any of these issues that anybody has a comment on? Okay, so the total we have here is, so 2,100 and 56.1, is that correct?
I didn't add it.
54.
We'll go with your math,
It's
subject to,
56.1.
Yeah, it's 56.
So, we need a
accounting
vote.
review.
Subject to calculator.
Yes.
One quick question. Have you considered putting in some seminar and education money for either yourselves or sometimes for other land use commissioners as there's deep seminars or other things that come up to be able to encourage?
That has actually come out of the promotion
It has,
advertising.
yeah.
That's-
It would?
We
Okay.
dipped into there, and if
Okay.
somebody had to go to the NU, had a conference on land use management or something
Yeah.
like that, that's typically where we
Okay.
went in and did that. All right, we need a motion for,
What about the others items, other project-related,
well, this is just be on our budget? I mean,
well, the question is, I don't know if any of these A, B, or Cs would, our budget, we should probably talk about them first, because maybe they come under our budget, based on what Tom.
usually we recommend them when they go
Right.
under somebody else's budget.
But that's why, but I don't know if what Tom said changes any of that.
I think as long, if you made a proposal, Lou, to move something forward to the Board of Selectmen separately, a recommendation that the town spend X on Y, that would work just as well. I just, because what you were talking about was your own operational piece, I think it's very
Yeah,
important.
so I'd like to get through our budget, and then we can go into A, B, and C for recommendations. So once again, we need a motion to approve our budget of $56,100 for fiscal years 15, 16.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? It carries. Thank you. Now you
My
can go.
apologies, I've got to go to school.
All right, moving on to other projects. Consultant funding for the completion of the Weetag Village District for significant economic development proposal, $45,000. Nancy's not here, so I don't have any idea if they're going to request any monies for the Economic Development Task Force.
Well, I would support what the Economic Development Task Force may need or may want, given where they are now. We've supported it to this extent. I don't know if they're gonna need any more, they haven't yet, we can't really say, but we can say that we support the task force in its efforts
Yeah.
if they have some number.
Do you know if the Economic Development Task Force has requested funds from the town?
Mark, I don't. I think you guys have a timeline. They probably should, if they want money, make a presentation to you guys. I think that'd be appropriate. And
Okay.
there will be time in the budget process for them to do that.
Now, in the last year, I think the town allocated $125,000 for the Simsbury Meadows implementation.
That's for the jogging trails and study.
Now, we allocated $25,000 for the study, which is currently being done as we speak.
Right.
I believe last year, they also put in $125,000 for its implementation.
In the capital budget, in the capital plan?
I believe so. If you could check that.
Yeah, 125, and that's, I don't recall off the top of my head, Mark.
Okay.
Is that something we want to make sure and recommend as a commission?
Well, now that it's in the process of being designed, that we're coming back and saying, what would this cost? Right now, I think they put that in.
But we want to make sure, as an EDC, we want to recommend that that money either is there and should remain there,
Right.
or if for some reason it's not there, it should be put there. Is that something?
Yes.
I would move that we recommend that.
Well, I would, recommend that to check on the effect on the understanding that we think it was allocated last year for
I
$125,000.
know something was allocated, I just don't know the number, Mark, so.
Okay, so if you can check on, and that we recommend once again that number or that money still be segregated specifically for the development of the
Yeah,
Simsbury
wait a minute
Meadows.
now, we're mixing time periods here, right? I'd like to know how much of that money's been spent already.
$25,000 is allocated toward the study, which is being done right now.
And that's been in the
That's
process of
underway.
being
That's underway.
spent. The 120, or whatever it is, we think it's 125, but whatever was allocated is still
25
there.
of it's already,
No,
No,
that's a
it's
separate
separate.
25.
and we're studying ourselves to death on some of this stuff, aren't we?
Well, right now, for the trails and the rest of it, there was a presentation here a couple of months ago, and they came in and said, because of the change in the way that they look at floodplains and flood flows, they have to.
Floodways now.
Floodway, they have to very carefully figure out where they can and cannot go. And so what they'll be doing is looking at all of the studies that were done over the last 15 or 20 years, and bringing that together, which they showed the plan we were working on in 2008, and then updating that to today's to say, this is what you can do, where you can go and you can't go. And they will come back to that, I think, within the next month or two. And then from that, we will then make a decision. We'll look at the monies that have been allocated
Tom's looking right now, checking for you right now.
to see how we then proceed and whether that is enough. I would certainly hope so. On that.
What about A, consulting fund for completion of Weetag Village District? What was that?
That's they did the initial study, the layout.
They had some grant money, but it
Grant
wasn't
money.
enough to complete it, is that my understanding?
Yes.
He applied for a grant, but it wasn't, they never were awarded the grant money.
But there was some money that got it
There was money to
started.
do the study.
Okay.
There was money to do, there was money to do a small
Right.
study as part of, the village districts, but not to do an in-depth.
So this is the money to get that project to the end.
Well, was that the one we were having trouble when the guy made his presentation, it was all hocus pocus?
I don't think
There was one of those studies that was like, huh,
I don't think so. I don't think we've had Hiram on
Study it
this.
was, it was.
We've had
it was
Hiram on this
all-
one. I don't think,
It was all hot
No,
air.
this is the one where they want to examine the entire Weetag corridor. They want to examine the relationship to the rails to trails, Mitchell's, everything. They want to look at the entire Weetag village as for development, transportation, et cetera.
Yeah, they did the schematic, if you remember seeing that. They put a
Very
green in
rough.
there, and they
Yeah,
wanted to
very
do
rough.
that. That was sort of the picture. Now it's taking the picture and then going to the point of saying,
Almost make it to zoning
my only,
regulations.
my only problem with that is a large part of it depends on Mitchell's.
yes.
I mean, nothing happens if Mitchell's is there. You can go all around it all you want.
Well, the
but-
southern
and
part.
that's a private owner, I just don't know if now's the time to spend that 45,000 or recommend it. I don't see the, and I'll say immediate, and then by immediate, my time frame is 3-4 years. I don't see the immediate gain because the largest piece that could transform the whole thing is being utilized by a landowner, which they have every right to do. So I don't know if now we can make little changes around there that could make that difference, at least now, in this budget cycle. I'll
It
take-
seems like we're just speculating. We don't really, Hiram's not here. Like, we don't really even have all the information. It's tough to say.
Well, remember, the budget discussion goes on all the way into
May.
March, actually, before they do the numbers. So would you like to defer this to the next meeting?
It'd be
where
nice to
Hiram
have all
can
the
be here?
It'd be nice to have
I would've wanted-
the real
I would-
information.
At this point, I would not want to, my vote would be that the EDC not promote this 45,000 toward that.
Well,
I'd
I would-
rather just
I
get the
would- I would
information.
rather just say,
Right.
move it to the next meeting where Hiram can
That's
give us a
fine.
better idea of what the 45,000
I
is
agree.
actually going to do in conjunction with other landowners down there, so that we have a better understanding how that money will be spent.
Yeah, if you wanna drag it out, that's okay, but. I don't know. Hiram can sweet talk all he wants, but I vote no on that one.
Yeah, I don't see how you have a study where your biggest centerpiece,
Is.
if that were just open land with trees, yeah,
but the
I think
charrette's like
I
that.
think it'd be great to do that.
But the charrette's like that, right, too? I mean, like, there's plans for what downtown's going to be, but right now there's a lot of people who own businesses. Those things have to go. So it's the same kind of concept, right?
Yeah.
It's what would happen, right?
All right, so I would suggest we move A, B to the next meeting so that we have a better idea from the people involved what they're talking about before we make any sort of recommendations. And then Tom's gonna check on the 125,000, which I think made it to the capital plan for the last fiscal year.
And I have another recommendation I want to bring up that I mentioned earlier when Sarah was giving her proposal, and that is recommend that the town set aside in the 15-16 budget $50,000 toward developing a central hub of community organizations. And I'm not going to limit it to a particular area because it may be the right spot, it may not be the right spot, but that it, at least the historical society be looked at. I know they have a plan, and there's been a lot of talk about it, so I'm going to put it out there in the forefront and make it a topic of conversation. And I believe that that is a perfect area to develop a community hub, which would involve the tourism, the chambers, the Main Street, the historical society, the bike, a visitor center, could all be in that area, and I think it's right in the center of town. It involves the history of this town, and I think in the long run, that would be a really very interesting spot, and then everybody knows where to go for all items. And there's some unity of interest in some of the costs and things, copiers and offices and conference rooms, all of those things. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend $50,000 for that effort.
When you say effort, is it to execute that, or is it as a study of some sort? So,
Oh, no, I don't want
Towards the
to, I'm not a study guy.
okay, that's good. Well, that's good because that's good because if it's
It's, you know what?
$50,000 to here's the stuff we think we need to do to make this, that's one conversation. If it's we should look at this, it's like, well, there's a concept that
It would
was
be towards
raised.
the implementation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we have to put it in now. See, this is where we get caught in the town. This is something that's going to take some time. But remember, what we're talking about today is money that could be spent a year and 5 months from now. Because it's the 15-16, but it's July to June of 2016.
This would go on the capital budget, is that what you're talking about?
I'm not saying the capital budget, because that's slightly different. I'm saying within
It's gonna
the.
lap over, if you sign it.
No, it's going to start July 1st, 2015.
Yeah.
To June 30th, 2016. $50,000 in that
So
budget
you're trying
cycle.
to put it into that budget.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah, not right now. It's gonna take time before you even get there.
Look, this thing's got big problems. This came out when the young girl talked, which I thought was very good, about the historical section down there. The Andes problem is a big problem down there.
It doesn't mean that we can't allocate the money. And I said, it doesn't have to be on that site. That's just what has been discussed to date. There may be another one, and there may not, it could be Boy Scout Hall.
You mean like Tarryville?
Could be Boy Scout Hall. I think it should be a downtown. I'm a believer in the central business district. And everybody's got their own unities, but if you're gonna bring a group like that, I think it should be in the downtown. I mean, there's a Boy Scout Hall issue, you put in veterans, there's the Historical Society. There are spots that you can have this, develop this unity that if you need to know something in town, there's where you go, the visitor center, those types. I think it all works down there because of the bike path, the performing arts center.
This money you're talking about comes from out of the tax money that the
Yes.
town raises.
Yes.
This goes across the whole town. It's always one of my concerns about Main Street. When we concentrate this tax money on Main Street, all the other outlying areas are kind of different on it, okay? You're starting to get a little bit better now because the town's becoming more bigger, if you will. But when we first started this thing, it was crazy with Main Street because all the money was coming out of all the taxpayers, you know? And the business went up in Tarryville, up in West Simsbury, et cetera. And I don't want to lose sight of that because I think we're spending money.
I don't think we lose sight because one of those proposals is the Weetag Village District. Now, we
Yeah.
pushed it off a
Yeah,
little, but
because that's
there's
a
that study,
study.
then there's been studies in the north,
Yeah,
the
well,
north end.
study. You know, the Indians were studying too, but, you know.
But my point is, there are efforts to do some things in other areas, so I agree that you don't wanna only spend every tax dollar on your Main Street area. And when I say Main Street, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
Simsbury Main Street Partnership, I'm talking about Hot Meadow, maybe we should use that term. But, this effort where you have certain community organizations, you have the bike path, visitor center, tourism, all these items fit in that historical area they're looking to promote and redefine what they're all about, and that is what Simsbury's about. And I think everyone can agree to that. So I use that as the example. It doesn't have, I'm not earmarking that the 50,000 has to go to that historical area. I'm saying 50,000 needs to be allocated if there's any chance of anything happening in the next 2 years. You gotta start with money on the budget.
Where the
You can't put it off and then say, oh, in September, say, that's a great idea, oh, we didn't allocate the money. So we'll wait till next, we can't do that. We have to start now and get that momentum going and develop it.
When the selectmen get squeezed, that money will evaporate. You know that.
where the 50
No,
come
you're gonna
from?
watch it, Dave, I'm gonna put you in charge of that line
I'm
item.
watching the
50 come from? The no, is it just to just pull it 50?
It's, there's an, well, no, not necessarily, it's a number that would take to either refurbish, part of the historical society. Another thought that has come up, I wasn't part of the initial discussions, but I know they had them. I don't know, Sarah, you said you visited, the building.
There's been talk about the Pharaoh Hickson building and,
You mean the
Right, you want my
that'd
old?
be feasible.
Yeah.
There's been
Well,
talk of, Dominique Avery brought up the Betty Hudson house. I don't know if that's feasible.
I don't remember, what's that one?
That's the one the town just purchased right near the Flower Bridge.
Oh, okay.
But
I mean,
there's substantial
the thing
issues
is,
with
tourism has been looking for a new home for a long time. They've always been relegated, the poor child, they're in somebody's basement, nobody can find where they are.
No, I think we should be careful. Tourism is an all-volunteer committee. They do not need unless we open up
No,
a
I'm
visitor
just
center.
saying that we have promoted tourism over the years, but most people never can find what it is. So if you wanted to have them on a more visible platform, we would consider putting tourism where you could actually find the tourist office or whatever brochures you want to put out.
You'd open a visitor center.
Exactly.
Some sort
Exactly.
of.
Right,
Yeah.
along the
that's-
same lines. You know,
But that's part of that concept.
Chamber-
The lobby of the hub.
The what?
Chambers
The
looking.
lobby of the hub.
Absolutely.
Chambers looking for new
Absolutely.
space. So these are organizations, all of which we support, all of which, hopefully, I think we can agree on, are an effort to have or develop more economic activity. So if we could move in a direction to bring those together and help out other, if it was the Historical Society, help them out so that you have more concentration of activity and, you know, cross-fertilization, and if you decide that you wanted to put bathrooms there for the bike path, you know, you have many different things you could bring together. So the question is, if we want to actually see that happen, then we should look at a proposal to say, we recommend that money be allocated towards the implementation of this, if it is going to happen.
Right.
Somewhere.
Right.
So, would you like to make a motion?
So moved. You want me to restate it for you?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. Okay, I make a motion to allocate.
If you want my vote.
I want your vote.
You want your
Hold them
record.
down. I make a motion to allocate $50,000 in next year's, the 15-16 budget toward the implementation of a hub of community groups, as has been discussed in recent time with regard to the Historical Society, but does not necessarily have to be in that area. But to develop the chamber, the tourism visitor center. I also asked you some questions, Nancy. Now you know why I was asking those questions.
Oh, I knew why at the beginning, Lou.
That's why I asked you those, because I think it'd be perfect for you. So that's why Farmington Valley Visitor Center, I think things like that. You develop the momentum, and then Nancy said, you know what? I'd like to be part of that, but we have to get it going. And maybe she is, maybe she isn't, but that's why I asked those specific
Oh, I
questions.
know, yeah.
Okay, so,
So moved.
okay, do we have a second on that? I second it. All in favor? Aye.
No.
No. 4 in favor, 1 against. With that, do we have any other old business?
I leave.
Do we have any old business? New business?
Mark, let me just, you asked, I wanted to make sure you guys got the answer. There's about 150,000 allocated to Simsbury Meadows implementation currently in the capital plan.
So I move that 150 be reallocated into next year's budget?
No, it's in the capital.
Oh, in the capital?
I think, yeah, you're okay on that.
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay.
The one thing I might ask, though, is I'm not sure what 50,000 is gonna get you guys in this world. How do you want that used? Because I'm sure the Board of Selectmen will ask.
Well, there's a couple of different things that you could do. One is through Main Street and some of the efforts begin, it's just an example, it's not the necessity, but an example would be the Historical Society to house these people in a building that they have needs to be refurbished.
I see.
Okay, so there's money to start, and there might be some grant money out there to do that, to help that. So it's a coordinated effort of the town, Main Street Historical Society,
Okay.
for the benefit of everybody. That's one way. Another way is, there's the Hickson building that recently came up. My out-of-the-box idea is you work with Mr. Hickson. I don't know what he thinks the value is, or all that, you gotta put that aside, that's up to him. But you could donate it to the town as a tax deduction for the value, which is a huge benefit to someone if they need that tax deduction. And then you lift it, and you move it straight down the street, and you put it on the Historical Society, and you have a beautiful spot. And you could probably do that, I don't know, 50 to 100,000.
Yeah, or if you
somewhere.
refurbish the visitor center, which is, but if you can bring enough organizations together and get the hub concept where you have enough activity, then it makes sense for the town to allocate money. If you can't, if you end up still disjointed with people in different places, maybe it doesn't make sense for the town. But from the way I look at it, if it was the Historical Society, you could revive the Historic Society. You have a number of organizations that can co-use space and share. We keep pushing the bike path, which I think has gotten great traction. It's right next to the bike path. If you want to have bathrooms for the bike path, it's right there. So you can see a lot of things that could happen where that location is, or if you move the building. So if we're going to move down there, I think these monies could be used towards helping out in that regard.
You know, that building came up, I think a group that went down, and Sarah was part of it, that had looked at it at one point, but I think that is think of that, moving that beautiful railroad depot down less than a quarter of a mile, which isn't a big move, it's cost, but that's easily done. But it involves, again, a private individual that owns the building, but not the land. And that's the crucial part of that situation. That's owned by Bank of America.
Well, and I think don't relegate it just to that. I mean, you have Ferg here, there could be talk about, as the town is paying focus on the Performing Arts Center, having a portion, there's been talk about the visitor center, so other areas that might make sense as well that could go towards the
And
development.
that's why I didn't want to limit it to the historical, but
Yes.
we need the money to really push that momentum. You're right, it could be part of the Performing Arts Center.
It could be part of Memorial,
Same
I
thing.
mean.
So this is basically, you're thinking of seed money to get this going?
Correct.
All right. That's
Right.
fine.
There needs to be money there to be able to get it, because everyone's gonna say, well, that's a good idea, but how do we pay for it? Well,
Right.
now we at least have a start, and I think with Main Street as part of it, you have this granting ability, which I think fits right in what Main Street's about, with preserving the historical nature
And
of
grants
downtown.
like money that's already been placed there to match it, right?
What grants would do, every grant has a different requirement, but what they would be looking for is some sort of match.
Commitment from the
There's
town.
always,
Right.
with the
Oh,
exception
there
of
you
maybe
go.
one
Yeah.
grant I've ever seen, you're looking for a one-to-one match.
In a perfect world, assume Mr. Hickson says, you know what, I'm a good guy, I'm gonna donate that to the town, take the tax write-off. Well, now, you have seed money, you do a grant to preserve a very historic building, and you're gonna put it on a historical site, let's just
Yep.
assume. Sarah, in her wisdom, does a great grant, and now you have the money to pick it up, move it, place it, and move people in.
Which
and
they did
you-
with the probate building and some of the others.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
There is
I mean,
precedent.
Kurt?
I don't think people realize by creating critical mass, and doing what you're saying, that's an easy building to move, what you're gonna do. Bridge of Flower, where do I go? What do I do? All the time, the questions we get, and by having a central area where everything happens, I think it's gonna help the economic development of this town, heads and beds, butts in restaurants, it's just amazing, because people they're like sheep, you have to tell them where to go, then you tell them where they are, you tell them where they've been, and if you create this thing, this focal point, it'll help the town tremendously.
Yeah, I think
All the retail, it's just people will come, they'll know that we need it as a destination. Right now, we're spread out, we have no, everything is all wishy-washy, but I think it's really important to try and strive to do it.
Thank you, Ferg.
Any other comments or questions on this particular thing? Because we're getting close to having to adjourn.
We are. I know. This is a war of attrition here. I know.
But now you can vote on it. You don't have a quorum anymore.
I don't want to. I'm not, and I haven't had my coffee yet, so I'm definitely not suggesting we talk about this today. But maybe for the next meeting, a point that you brought up, Lou, which is we're talking about budgets that what about wanting to do something basically a year and a half from now. We're locking ourselves in, so the town's kind of like locked in. I like to figure out, are there changes that can happen clearly beyond the scope of this commission with the town, or are there other ways to kind of get into being more flexible as a town, as opportunities like this one or like others that might come up mid-budget cycle so that we can act on them. I think something similar happened with the website we were talking about over a year ago. It's like, well, there's nothing in the budget that came in wait, so we gotta wait another year. It's like, really, we have to wait a year to update a website because that's how the budget cycle works? I mean, so maybe
That's
if someone can give a tutorial.
Welcome to our world. It's all
But we can discuss.
It's not a bad discussion to have, because that's the reason I'm pushing it now, is I'm not thinking it's gonna happen tomorrow.
Right.
But you got a year and a half, June of 2006, this decision is based on June of 2016, and if there was a vehicle midway, I don't know if it's possible, if you had extra money, you put it aside, but we're not in that luxury.
I mean, we've got a budget process we just by charter have to follow, and one of the best things we ever did was get the Performing Arts Center out from under it. I think Ferg would probably agree with that. If you're a 501c3.
Because they would get stuck in it too.
It is just a and it is a completely defensible process. There has to be that kind of transparency and buy-in, so it is what it is. But if you're trying to put on a concert, and you're trying to give away tickets, and if you're trying to set up things that are 2 years out, it's a very, very tough thing to do. So I think there are certain ways, Jay, to get to your issue. Obviously, we gotta get our projects done in the time frame that's set out for them, and that would help a lot. I think we're close. Sounds like on the website. I don't recall quite how the funding worked for that, so I know we still have yet another discussion on that, but.
Under the planning,
right.
under planning.
So,
So with that, with us three here, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. I'll second.
The audience
no
votes.
quorum though. Without a quorum, I think you just put the meeting fizzled out.
You have to stay here until next month.
We got a gold star
Nice
for
to actually
staying.
meet you.
Thank you, you too. Hey Nancy, Chris Kelly.
Do we get a gold star for staying for the duration?
You get extra points
This
for
is
overstaying.
Lisa, as Lisa's now married.
Yeah, so I'll be.
Yeah.
Can I get my hand stamped? I go
But
to
he's not a
Starbucks and get a
stranger
free
to
coffee now. It's like,
No,
Well,
actually,
actually,
I was
you've
on
been-
to the board.
yeah, you've been-
This board before, so.
Well, you look
And he's been on,
familiar, like I've
Board of
seen
Ed.
you.
Right.
Well, after the ladies are busy, I'm going to.
It
select-
keeps the meetings moving. I found that if we lower the temperature,
Same
it's much
information.
easier on the staff.